Welcome back to another episode of the Even Your Dynasty Show. On this episode, we are going to talk about whether or not the Giants should trade for Willy Adames. For those of you who don't know who Willy Adames is, he is a shortstop for the Milwaukee Brewers. He is 28 years old. He turns 29 on September 2nd. So he is in his age 28 season, and he is under contract for one more season at $12.5 million. So first, we're going to kind of talk about the good with Willy Adames. First and foremost, defense. He has been one of the most premier defensive shortstops in baseball for quite a number of years. For those that like kind of looking at the advanced metrics, especially the last two seasons, he has been worth 9 defensive runs saved in 2022 and 8 defensive runs saved this past season in 2023. He was also worth 10 outs above average in 22 and 16 outs above average this past season. So he is a truly elite defensive shortstop. That's the first positive with him. The next one would be his power production, where in his last 4 full seasons, I'm going to remove the COVID season, though he did hit 8 home runs in the COVID shortened season. His last 4 full seasons, he has hit 20 home runs, 25, 31, and 24. So he's a pretty consistent power producer that you can generally rely on for 20 plus homers. Now he also has posted pretty solid walk rates. The last 4 years, he's been anywhere from 2022, he had a 7.9%. He had a 9.8, a 10.3, and an 11.1. So he does draw walks at a pretty solid clip as well. Now he does come with some strikeouts. He's got a good amount of swing and miss to his. He kind of lives in the 26 to 28% strikeout percentage. So he's obviously got some swing and miss. So that's kind of about him as a player. And for those that like the WAR statistic, I don't live and die off WAR, but for those that do like it, his last 4 seasons, non-COVID season, although he was productive that year, his last 4 full seasons, he's had a 3.3 WAR, a 3.3 WAR, a 4.6 WAR, and a 3.4. So he's almost like a Matt Chapman, but a shortstop. Elite defensive, some pop, and pretty dependable production-wise. Now, the negatives for him, while his first 4 years of his career, he hit between 254 and 278 each of the seasons. His last 2 years, his average has fallen off. It's dropped to 238 in 2022, and he only hit 217 this past season. His WRC plus the last 2 years went from being in the 120s range and down to a 109 and then a 94, meaning he was 6% below league average offensively this past season. So this brings us to kind of the fit and why they might be interested in bringing him in. So the first thing is right now as it currently stands on their roster, the Giants are lined up to either play Marco Luciano or maybe Casey Schmidt ends up in a competition with Luciano, and then like a dark horse might be a Tyler Fitzgerald type player. So as of right now, they don't really have anyone proven at the shortstop position, and they could look to, they may have an open competition there, but they may want to look into bringing a veteran in. Now, the talk has been to bring in a veteran backup to kind of be there just in case. But this would be, you don't bring in Willy Adames to back up Marco Luciano. He is too good of a player to be a backup. So this might be if you determine you want to give Marco Luciano more time to develop, which, he only has 123 plate appearances above AAA and the majors between the two. So it would make sense. Also, they may view Marco Luciano as needing to move off of shortstop eventually. So this could be one where maybe they trade for him and then they move JD Davis still. And then you have a competition between Marco and Casey over at third base. So I could see that as a possibility. Now the fit is pretty easy because he's only making $12.5 million. So you could bring him in and you're still 25 or so million under the competitive balance tax first threshold. So you could realistically trade for him and still look to bring in a big time free agent. So this to me is definitely a move that you make if you are looking to try and win in 2024. And also because of, yeah, and I couldn't really project. I don't know how long of a deal he's going to look at. I don't know what it might take to extend him, but he might be a guy that you look to extend. Again, I kind of think he's very similar to Matt Chapman, except for he would be almost, almost 2 years younger than Matt Chapman at the time of his free agency. He would just have turned 29, and Chapman is going to be turning 31 basically on opening day. On their free agent, so that he's about a year and a half younger, I believe, than Matt Chapman. So he could make sense as a guy that you maybe try and extend for 4 or 5 years after this if you think that he could be your shortstop going forward. Now, should they trade for him? To me, it fully depends on what they intend on doing in free agency. I like trading for Willy Adames and then maybe extending him more than I like signing Matt Chapman, even though Chapman only comes with having to give up. I think he signed the qualifying, or he received a qualifying offer, so you lose a draft pick for Chapman. And with Adames, you're actually giving up assets. I don't think that you'd end up having to give up enough assets that it would be so detrimental that it's not worth trading him. Unfortunately, you may end up having to part with a guy like Casey Schmidt in a deal like that, but you also have kind of a surplus of young pitching. You can maybe throw a pitcher in there. So it's kind of we'll see what the package would end up being, but I do really like the idea of going and getting Willy Adames and then maybe also signing a guy like Cody Bellinger, or if they want to go the pitching route there. So let me know your guys' thoughts. That's kind of where I'm at. I think it's a good fit, but only if you're going to add in free agency. If you're not going to add in free agency, play the kids and go from there. So some of your guys' thoughts, like, subscribe to the channel. We're getting a ton of support from you guys. I appreciate all of it. I'm going to keep busting this content out as much as possible. We're coming up on pitchers and catchers reporting in just a couple of weeks. So appreciate it. Super Bowl next weekend. So next week might be a little bit lighter than this week. We're trying to get it all out now, but hopefully we get some more action, more stuff to talk about, and we will talk to you all soon.